One of the individuals out there, I don't know if her thing is in here, is her lymph nodes are hard and her cancer markers are going up. You know, I think that a lot of you, especially those helping others, are awakening up to how serious man's problems are. And when you see me ranting and raving about the medical field and all that, there's really just cause for that. And it is just a modality that must drastically change. And this whole thing about healthcare and everything else will change with it. But we are awakening up to extreme chronic problems. When your lymph nodes are large and hard, that's serious, very serious, because your waste from your cells filter through those lymph nodes on their way to the kidneys. So obviously in our conversations you understand that it is kidney filtration of the lymph system that becomes impaired. And it becomes impaired from these high protein diets man has been on. Even though colon cancer has been linked to these high protein diets for I don't know how long, 100 years, medical doctors haven't been looking at kidneys because of that long ratio between 0.3 and say some labs are ridiculous at 1.50 in creatines. Your creatines or creatins are your kidney tissue breakdowns, and you don't want over 0.6. 0.7 at the most, and that already starts to show inflammation. And from 0.7 on, you really start breaking down the kidneys. No longer is it a filtration problem. It is now a kidney breakdown problem because those acids that the kidneys filters are not filtering. And now they're starting to break down the kidneys. Generally, at first, the kidneys filter okay. Some people have minor sediment, color changes. However, as the adrenals go down from this, it takes time, it takes years sometimes. Now in genetics, we're just handing our weaknesses over to our children like candy, like the national debt. Here you go, sorry, we weren't very smart in the way we did things, so here, the burden's on you. We're doing the same thing in genetics and they don't get that. When you have swollen lymph nodes at heart, you can use castor oil packs, of course, but I suggest also the 3-lung tea. Take the 3-lung tea, that's pleurisy root, that's fenugreek seed, and that is mullein. These 3 herbs will break up hardened masses. And it'll take a while because they're hard. Well, the problem is the inflammation and the acids on the other side of the lymph nodes burning on your cells. That is problematic. And the problem is that your cancer markers can definitely go up in detoxification, no question, because you are getting into tissues and you're moving that lymph. Well, this starts opening all the doors and everything starts opening up. So definitely your cancer markers can go up. You always see a residual kick from chemotherapy and radiation, however, always. So those of you who have had chemo or radiation, don't get upset if your cancer markers, no matter what they are, the PSAs, the CA25, 27s, the 27, 29s, the 19-9s, the 15-9s, on and on, doesn't matter. You see them go up, you either, one, got a residual kick from chemo or radiation, which is just what that latest report on chemo, remember we talked about that the other day? This judges and lawyers can hold this report, this scientific study and say, you wanted studies? Now you got one up your butt. And this one says that if you give chemo, really, manslaughter would be a good word that could come into play here, because you can't justify killing 94% of the people that come to you for 6% survival rate for only 5 years. That's all insanity thinking. That's all fear-based, hope-based, carrot in front of the nose syndrome, that sort of thing. That kind of consciousness is why genetics is where it's at. So we need to change that drastically, and especially when it comes to the kids. You've got to regenerate your kids, no question about it. So remember, acids from cell waste, from cell metabolism and respiration, just cell activity, even the parasitic action within this creates waste. So you've got these wastes at the cellular level that must be discarded, and they're acids. To sit there and think that your acids from all your body is going to be broken down to base and shoved into the venous system is insanity, one of their biggest downfalls that they have, and massage ball right into it. Second of all, remember, from the cells, these acids are about 3 pH, must move through the lymph nodes so bacteria can break these 3 pH Coca-Cola acids down to about 6. You don't want 3 pH to hit your kidneys. 3 pH acid hits your kidneys, you're going to go down on your knees. And you think UTI, most UTIs probably are around 5. Can you imagine? 200 times hotter? Because 3 is 200 times hotter than 5. So this is a real problem, a serious problem. And then the lymph nodes are backed up from the kidney failure, and these lymph nodes are hard as a rock. That's a problem. And yes, on the other side, if you have a tumor on the other side, you have cells breaking down. If you can't get to that, you can't stop what's going on. See how important that is? You can't magically eat a few raw fruits and vegetables and think you're getting it. Those that are fairly healthy and stuff, perfect. But we're not talking about this. This site isn't about just being a raw foodist and eating juices when you want and everything like that. Have fun. That's the way it's done. This is a much more serious and deep problem. And without our herbs, I don't know how man's going to do it, because raw foods doesn't do it enough. Most of you have already wrote in with that. You've already seen that. It makes you feel better, and it helps because it is anti-inflammatory. No question. It's base chemistry. However, when you've got miles of lymph that's been acidic for years, remember, acids create an anionic environment. A coagulated environment. It's all about variances of pHs. Remember that. At estrogen pH, it really keeps fluids moving well. You notice that women with a low estrogen in the adrenals, you get vaginal dryness, because acids stimulate and move things, no question, but it is about pH variances affecting zeta potentials and cations and everything else. And what they're not getting is that, yes, base metals, anionic, become cations. Absolutely. That's a whole move of chemistry, buffering and moving and breaking down. That's a whole thing of chemistry. So it's important for you poor people that are suffering out there with these lymph nodes and stuff, get those kind of herbs and put a poultice on that, use the castor oil packs, hit the kidneys. If you have to and you feel like that you're just not getting on the other side of that to correct the problem, then by all means, hit those kidneys and adrenals harder. Though, if you hit the lymph system too hard, you could hurt your kidneys. And you might have to meter how you fill your kidneys with how many lymphatic formulas you have. Try the immune system. But you cannot break up hard rocks like that. Not going to happen. And this is why I'm adamant about this, and so important that you all learn. Because some of you are waking up in very serious conditions. You're young. Your 30s, and it's disgusting. We have a beautiful lady passing now at 30, 2 kids. Makes you want to vomit. If they knew they had hope years and years ago, they wouldn't be where they are. But we've infiltrated this ridiculous nonsense about academics and the medical profession that everybody thinks unless you're an academically read person, you don't know crap. And the opposite is true. The opposite is true. See, and we have to wake up to these things. The more you know, the stupider you get. You ever notice that? The more you start to discover and you look into life and you tear it apart, the more you realize you don't know anything. That it all is already working. All we have to do is observe the working. So, don't get upset. No one. Just tear into it. Keep tearing into it. It takes a while. And sometimes cancer markers are up for no reason, and people are freaking out for no reason. But if the lymph nodes are real hard, that is scary. So you just have to keep working them down and trying to soften them. At the same time, the kidneys must filter down below, or those lymph nodes can't go anywhere. That's just the problem. And tumors will form on the other side, acting like lymph nodes. So this is what the game is here. And once we learn it, don't get upset. You're awakening to your body and what little we know. That's why I say you guys are going to take this a lot farther than I am. And God bless you and do that. That's what we're supposed to be doing as civilized humans, is passing it on to other people that use academics maybe more or involved in research more. Absolutely. I am on a road back to health. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That was also found in the lymph. But know that this is one system. And if you have cells that are still going to be in that system, and that damaged cells, called cancer cells, are going to be taken to the lymph nodes if the pathway is available. If the pathway is blocked up, which it generally is, there's no removing these cells. So everything in tissues, you're going to see the aggressiveness of that in tissue. I have sizable swollen axillary lymph nodes under the left arm. The doctors say it is very aggressive, and I have no chance of survival on my own without chemo. Oh, but I love these guys. I love these guys. Your only survival is chemo. In other words, we're going to accelerate your death, but if you do survive, then it was the only way, basically. You know, I deeply trust in the law of nature and know that not to be true. Absolutely. You know, you stand up against that bull crap. You know, but if you don't know any other pathway, you're sitting there with nothing. If you trust totally in the medical, you never looked at nature, you never looked at how nature works, the chemistry, the physics, how the body works, how the body's put together, of course. They're the ones that have made themselves out to be the Lord of the Rings, you know? And it's like, really? This is the kind of attitude you get from them. It's like, really? They said that about a lot of our clients that are alive and well today. They would like me to get a PET scan in the coming weeks to assess other areas of the body. More chemo, huh? Is this something I should do? Opinion on that? You already know what you're up against. Why subject your body to any more scans, radiation, anything like that? You already know you got a lymph node going, and you know what that means to the breast and or to the lungs. So you have only one course of action. You know it's the lymphatic system. These are lymph nodes, not blood nodes. They're lymph nodes. And how many fluids are interstitial all around the tissues in the breast and the arm and the lymph node itself and the lungs? 2. Blood and lymph. So you've got either a blood node, which is no such thing, or you've got a lymph node. Well, a lymph node is simply a septic tank. Look at your A&P books. A lymph node is full of bacteria and macrophages. Macrophages are cannibal cells. Neutrophils fall into that somewhat. These are cells that phagocyze or eat up other cells. They get rid of the cells so the body can eliminate them. Eliminate the sewage. This is sort of the sewer system, the immune/sewer system. So as soon as you have a swelling, I don't care if it's just a little bitty swelling, you got a problem. You got a problem. The fake you got a problem. Any edema anywhere, you got a problem. And that problem is on the acid side of chemistry and in the lymphatic system. That's a whole system unto itself. The problem is the medical doctors is not their understanding. So they have none. The problem with people, they go to them thinking they do. They have none. So, I mean, they'll cut out a lymph node. Really? You never remove your septic tank when it backs up at your house, do you? You clean it out. Because if you removed your septic tank at your house, what's going to happen to your house? You ain't going to be using the toilet anymore. You know, you can't do that. And yet your cells are continuing to use the toilet. You know, even if your lymph nodes are backed up and don't filter anymore, your cells are continuing to use the toilet. Blood keeps coming in. Kitchens keeps coming into them. But the sewer system quits working. That's when you see the swelling. That's when you see the inflammatory response. That's when you see the acids. And that's when you see all that on the outside of a cell. Blood keeps feeding the cell, so cells are continuing to metabolize, but the wastes are getting piled up. Now, when a cell no longer can eliminate its internal wastes, it's like being constipated. Those wastes build up inside the cell, or intracellular acidosis, and that's when you mutate the organelles of a cell. That's when the cell itself becomes undefined and becomes atypical. And atypical is just, I'm walking to destruction. And a cell at a certain level is dubbed a cancer cell. That's all that is. It's not a cell with an attitude, hey man, I'm going to make all of you guys a cancer cell like me. They like you to think stupid things like that. But you have to be more reasonable. You have to be more aware of the truth of things instead of playing some of these ideologies that are ridiculous, that make no true anatomy physiological sense, that make no chemical sense. You're highly acidic, your sewer system's backed up, your acid system, and we're going to hit it with hotter acids yet. That's basically what your medical doctor told you. Your sewer system's backed up, you don't have a chance in hell, and we're going to come in there and we're going to burn that system out. Really? That's why survival rate is down around 6, 7, 8, 10%. And that's only for those that got the genes to pack it. And maybe does a little other things on the side to help them. I've had no chemo, radiation, or hormonal therapy and wish to provide the mind and body with a supportive environment for it to heal naturally. But that's cool, and that's essential, is to get your act together in your awareness, in this, and get control of the mind. Because the mind is that's where the mind gets you, because they train it. They've trained our minds. The TV commercials on the pharmaceutical trains your mind. Your mind is totally a conditioned instrument. From the school you went to, from your parents, to your religion, to whatever. You're totally a conditioned being from the mind point of view. And I might say the emotions to a big extent. You start taking out lymph nodes around the neck. I could share with you some pictures, and I kicked myself. Me and him wanted to do a video about it before he died, but I had very few help, and I just was so busy I couldn't get that video done. But he was a Hare Krishna, and a great guy, and he would park out back in my clinic here and sleep for, he just couldn't hardly get around. But started out here with a little simple basal cell. A simple basal cell, detox, clean that up. Acid burning, sun burning, big deal. Then they removed it, all right? And then, according to them, it came back squamous, which simply means they didn't do anything to fix it. They just removed any of the tissue that was damaged. So then, of course, he didn't change. He didn't know any better. He thought lifestyle didn't have anything to do with cancer, right? So then he starts to get a tumor down here. And then they look at it, and it's squamous. So they remove the tumor and the lymph nodes. The biggest mistake one would ever make is removing the lymph nodes, and especially around the face. It took him a long time to die. I couldn't use lymphatic formulas on him because the pain was astronomical, because there's nowhere to draw it to. They removed the pathway to remove the sewage, to remove the damaged cell and the sewage that's damaging it. They removed the pathway. Oh, thanks, guys. Boy, that's really nice. So, with no pathway, I couldn't get it drained. So we talked, and I'd watch him die. And he had developed a big hole right here. It just opened up. He could see up in his, and then he heard a snap. I mean, I just... That's why I feel the way I do about medical doctors. And that's just one little case out of thousands that I've had to deal with from these guys. Hi, Dr. Morse. I had my tonsils removed when I was around 10 years old. I'm 48 now. What kind of harm does this kind of operation pose on a developing body? I was told they were removed because I was getting sick too often. Well, right there, my friend, let's see, who is this? This is Lulolancy. Well, remember, all cells feed into lymph nodes. It's interesting, without tonsils and adenoids, you don't get major lymphedema, but you get sub-major lymphedema. So what we don't realize is slowly the lymph system starts backing up. We notice those without tonsils particularly have stiff necks and shoulders. We notice particularly they start losing their C-spine. We notice particularly they start getting floaters more. We notice particularly they get the glaucomas, which is the lymph pressures in the eyes. Well, this is not a good pressure because this is an acid pressure. So then they get the breakdown and they get the MACDs, wrinkled retinas, and all that kind of stuff, but they for sure get the cataracts, which is the body's effort to fight the acids with cholesterol. Then you get the brain lesions, brain tumors, the little stuff like that one. And then you get the deterioration of the teeth. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, from the breakdown of the hearing to everything else. And then, what? Where'd I park my car? That sort of thing. So this is why you never remove lymph nodes. He was always sick. So what this is saying is that your kidneys and adrenals have always been problematic for you at moving lymph, and that you haven't been moving lymph well in your life, and this is the sign of it. But on an omnivorous diet or on an omnivore diet, you don't move lymph well. Everyone falls into that. It is not a lymph-moving diet. That's why God planned all the proper foods for all the species to think of lymph, nerve, and everything else. Well, if you think you're one of the higher species on the planet, then you need to eat that way. You know, we eat like we're the lower species on the planet, not to judge any species, because I don't consider, everyone is at the level God intended that to be. So that's the problem, is it's a minor form of lymphedema. So the best I can say is, when you remove lymph nodes, you always have to keep your body healthy. And always using some things sometimes, like your astringent-rich fruits and stuff, to always keep the lymph system moving on its own, because sometimes we need help. Hopefully the body rebuilds lymph nodes. I have not seen that because I've never had an opportunity to have enough, research on that. And people staying with me, it'd be cool if we could do that. I'm sure that we can rebuild. If we can rebuild everything else in the body, I can't imagine why we can't rebuild lymph nodes. I had a lymph node removed from right armpit. My face is breaking out now, and more on my right side of the face. Well, I hope that's not the lymph node to that side of the face, because this becomes very problematic in removing lymph nodes where cells are feeding into them. They think of nothing when a lymph node swells. These guys, forgive me, medical doctors, but if you guys don't turn around, you're going to have to answer some criminal charges, because you're doing things to the human body that's criminal just because you don't understand it, and that's not good. That's not acceptable. We have to join, not be separate. You got to forget the American Medical Association and the power freaks, and grab a hold of your profession and get it back to where you start pouring love into your profession. View these videos as medical doctors and learn how to turn your practice into a thriving healing practice. That's what you medical doctors need to do. And send a little note to the man who started you, the World Banker man. We know him. And the same with his son, and start telling these rich people to go take a hike, because we are now changing our focus to healing and helping people. So this is a good case where that could have been a lymph node that dealt with the drainage of this side of the face. That would be very problematic if that was the case, because if there's not a lymph node there to remove the lymph from the cells, boy, this is tough stuff. And in some cases in the head area, I hadn't been able to save them. So let's just say that's not the problem, and just keep moving your lymph. That's a problem. Right there was the problem for them to remove it. They had to remove a lymph node. It had to be swollen and hard. And so that was just telling that you had kidney failure. Kidney failure to the point where you could still pee, but you're not filtering your lymph. So this is a case, sweetheart, where you've got to start fixing your kidneys and start moving. This is the kidney channel right here, and you really just got to get those kidneys filtering, and then clean these lymph nodes. So I would be using lymph node 2. I definitely use stomach and bowel number, whatever you need, and a lymphatic 1 capsules. I would take 2 kidney formulas, 1 liquid, 1 capsule, and really tear this up, because you want to make sure that this face comes clean, because that's a sign of lymph backing up. And if it's on the same time the lymph node removed, it could just be your whole lymph bed is probably backed up there. But you really want to get to this and get moving and clean this face up. And I mean, this whole lymph, it's just the lymph system here, but having a lymph node removed is not good. It's like removing tonsils. You know, they think of nothing of removing tissue like that, and it's like, that's insane. That's just not, that's problematic. What causes appendix? And this is a twofold question, because I had another person ask me about the appendix. Keep in mind the appendix is part of the lymph system to the colon, and this would tie in perfect with you with the heavy lymphatic problems here, and you're having some appendix issues. I'll say this. Someone asked me about whether you have your appendix removed or not. Well, I put it this way. If your appendix is the point of decay, and basically it's turning into soup, which is your lymph node. It's a big lymph node, and it holds acid waste. And acid waste can break down the lymph nodes just like it can break down any other tissue in the body. The poor lymph nodes aren't free from that. That's why the benefit of bacterium. And then when you see things like this, a lot of people are subjected to a lot of antibiotics killing systemic bacteria, which is insane. And so then you start having, the lymph nodes have no way to clean themselves. And of course, if there isn't a movement and a filtration of this fluid, then you're going to see stagnation of acids, and then we see acidosis, dehydration, and then inflammation, of course, and then the destruction of tissue. And that's exactly what's going on with the appendix. If your appendix isn't that bad and highly inflamed, get into cleaning up the bowels and the lymph system. This is about the lymph system. So you've got kidneys, you get your adrenals, you do your stomach and bowel, lymphatic 1 caps if you can tolerate them with that much inflammation. And pull all this out and get your lymph moving out of that appendix and let it heal. If not, you know, sometimes surgeries are very necessary. I don't know what to say about it. Sometimes you just got to go under the knife. It's just the nature of where man is today. So that's where you really protect yourself under the knife, because they're going into a very acidic, very inflamed area, and that's where you're going to see scar tissue adhesions growing in those areas because they're highly inflamed, they're very weak, and the body has to support that tissue. So it's going to build a lot of additional tissue in that area to support that area. It's just the nature of nature. It strengthens itself by getting rid of its weaknesses. So this is the process of detoxification as well. It's building strength by getting rid of the garbage and the weaknesses. Back in 2005, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer stage 1B. Oh, God. I had an operation done, and they removed my uterus plus 18 lymph nodes. Holy crap. Honey, 18 lymph nodes? I hope they were all to the uterus. I had chemo and radiation therapy as well. I need a drink. Oh, my God, honey. Now in 2007, I developed 2 lymphedema in my legs. I was diagnosed and prescribed compression stockings to relieve me of my symptoms, so it has gotten a little worse in my right leg since it was first diagnosed, and my left leg seems to have cleared up. Listen, sweetheart, the reason you had it in the first place was your kidneys and adrenals. Back to the whole story we're talking about on all these videos. That's your doorway out for sewage. And that you have to go back and fix that. You got to go back and fix your kidneys and get this filtering. We showed you the picture here a minute ago. You got to get your kidneys filtering and get your adrenals up. This is the problem with removing lymph nodes. And when a physician removes a lymph node because it has a cancer cell or he suspects it, you know, you're out. Because what they do to the person and what they struggle in their lives, it's just not even funny for something that didn't need to happen. So, what you want to do is get all raw, 100% raw, no question. Don't even think about cooked foods for a little while if you can, honey. And really try to get your body out. Get your kidneys filtering, get your adrenals up. To get the kidneys filtering, start moving that lymph, clean your bowels out. And hope that if those lymph nodes will rebuild themselves. Been a few years, but you keep going and get that body cleaned out. Then watch which lymphedema stays. If your right leg stays, that's a problem. That's a problem because that means they remove the lymph nodes that leg can drain. Hopefully, you'll get those kidneys filtering and all this lymph will have a doorway out. And you do it now because if you get too big, your legs are going to get huge and you want to get away from that. You don't want that. So you try to do your best. Use sequential leg pumps or stockings or whatever if you have to. Thank you. But you know what? You want to go after the cause of your problem in the first place, sweetheart. That's your kidneys and your adrenals. You dig in there, okay? Now I have heard that not all people develop lymphedema because of surgical removal and want to ask if there is anything I can do to help my situation as I am 5 to 7 centimeters bigger on my, oh yeah, and it can get a lot bigger. I don't want to scare you, but let's get this out of here, okay? Let's get those kidneys filtering. Let's get those adrenals up. Let's get that body detox to yours. That's the only way you're going to find remedy. And during that process of that high raw, you could rebuild some lymph nodes. Or the lymph could reroute itself. So let's hope that can be the factor of that, because that's really going to be really key here, sweetheart, is to get your kidneys filtering. I'd be curious to what your creatinine is right now. Remember, creatinine is your kidney function. Anything above 0.6, don't like it. And 0.6 is the low end normal of most labs. You know, don't care what the labs think. We know what's up. So just know that your creatinine should be about 0.5, 0.6 at the most, and watch that. I have tried lymph drainage, acupuncture for about 3 months, systemic enzyme therapy, bandages, and self-drainage. Well, to tell you the truth, none of those are going to help you until you get your kidneys filtering. And this is and guys, this is how I learned that the kidneys were the key. It was cases just like hers. And the fact that they're doing all these things, they're doing all the things that supposedly, the cheat machines, you're doing the rebounders, you're doing all those things. The reason I speak from the level I do is I've had these experiences for 43 years now. I've seen all this. I see what works, what doesn't work. But I'm telling you, until those kidneys start filtering, don't be creating more acidosis for yourself. That's the problem. Too much activity. And that's what I'm going to say to you, sweetheart. I wouldn't have too much activity in my life until you get your kidneys filtering. Then kick it up, because you're going to create more waste, more lymphedema, etc., etc., etc. You need to keep your life in a relaxed manner and keep your diet totally raw. Start out with fruits, berries, and melons all day and a salad at night, and then in a month or two, get rid of the salad. Put yourself on like this young girl. She's on a where's she at? 50-some days on a grape fast. That's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get up there and at least try a 10-day grape fast and get with your body and start cleaning it out more aggressively. And there, enzyme therapy, that doesn't move lymph. Bandages, of course, squid pumps, that sort of thing. All these stuff. Get your kidneys filtering by way of the adrenal glands. And then you're going to see effect. But keep in mind, when they remove lymph nodes, and this shows you the vitalness of a lymph node, and why don't physicians understand that cancer cells are taken to lymph nodes for what reason? Macrophages, immune cells that like to gobble up other cells, macrophages, however you wish to call them. It's right there in the books. I do try to eat healthy, but often find myself eating crappy food. Well, I would nip that in the bud and get yourself focused, sweetheart, because you're in trouble. And you want to get yourself out of trouble. And you were in trouble back in '05, and they didn't know how to fix you properly. They just insulted your body, beat it up for you, and gave it back to you. And said, here, we're done with what we can do. And that's just insane. This is why you guys are so valuable to this world. I can't even tell you enough how important you are to save poor souls like this. But you, honey, you got to save yourself now, and you got to dig in and get your kidneys filtered and get higher up on the raw. And I would do all, well, forget the junk for now, because you're in trouble. You want to get yourself out of trouble, sweetheart, and you can get yourself out of trouble. Don't know about the right side. All right, I'm seeing on the left side. Okay, all right. Could be forcing up into the pelvic area, but we'll see. You know, you just have to get your kidneys filtering and see what happens to that right leg. It's the only way. It's the only way. Or that right leg. I've had them in here with their right legs this big. I had a lady in here with her right leg this big. That's how you get elephant legs. It's lymph node blockages or removal. All which can relieve me of some acute swelling, but not a long-term healing. I also tried some homeopathic. You need the muscle, baby. And that muscle is herbs, botanicals, in other words, and your raw foods, particularly fruits, berries, and melons. Absolutely, that's your babies. I am also tired most days. Well, why wouldn't you be? I mean, your problem is in the kidney and adrenals, and we're back in '05. You got to get in and fix those things, sweetheart. Spit out mucus in the morning. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. With some small lumps of yellowish, brownish matter. Well, now you're getting a little deeper into that body. As you dig deeper, you're going to see yellow mucus, and then you're going to see green mucus, and then you can see some brown mucus. But that shows how toxic you are right there. So you want to dig in, and I mean really dig in. I'd probably douche with the Herbal tea too, just because you were shot with radiation and everything else there. Let me see. Mucus in the morning, yellowish brown matter, which I had tested, and it's no bacterial infection. Bacteria is definitely after sewage. Just remember that. And what's sewage in your body? What system? Lymphatic. Now blood. Your blood's not the sewer system. Can you help me or guide me into what I must do and go forward? Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, from Denmark, Miss, I don't know how to pronounce your name accurately, but I'll say this, call in and get yourself on a program and do it now and get yourself going on lymph drainage and do it the right way. You got to get the kidneys and the adrenals up and filtering before you're going to see any permanent or true relief. So you want to, get on with this and get going. And then you'll have a good life, sweetheart. So doesn't it also make sense that what you call dying, fermented foods, are actually just a bunch of molecules containing thriving, living bacteria? It is. Of course it is. It is causing living bacteria. Why would you put more in your body for? I mean, yes, when you take antibiotics and you kill your bacteria, but I think you'll find that once you get the sulfurs and things out of your body that's going to keep killing them for a while and keep them suppressed, once you clean the body out, it'll reseed itself quite aptly into fruits and the foods that you're eating, because each food almost has its own bacterium for it. And yes, fermented foods are dead, but you forget one important thing, chemistry and energy. Because as those foods are dying, bacteria are doing the thing it needs to do to them. Absolutely, you have fermentation, but there's a point where this isn't good for the human body. Notice fermentation causes gas, chest pain, belching, farting, all these things like that. None of that's healthy. See what I'm saying? So putting that back into your body isn't something that I would think was cool at all. Ingesting these like sauerkraut, raw milk, or honey. No, not at all. Honey doesn't germinate bacteria, by the way, and raw milk is totally mucus-forming and nasty, very lymphatically compromising. Sauerkraut's nasty. Even as just as once off might be a good idea. I can tell all you have to do is go barefooted and walk around nature for a while. You don't have to worry. Although, like compost and soil, the more broken down, the better. Yeah, but there's a level where no. You don't feed compost to living human bodies. You don't need to do that. We're at another level. You can't associate plant life and the way you feed plant life with the way you feed human cells. I don't see that as a connection in that way. Every level has its own needs, its own source of foods, and its own levels. Kind of like everybody's into minerals, but again, minerals are loved by plants, but plants convert minerals into salts. And then we come along and we like the salts. So, I mean, it's just all kinds of levels of chemistry. I think, no offense here, Monique, but get your head out of the ground and out of fermentation and things like this, because I disagree with that as being a healthy thing to consume. You know, I bought into that when I had health food stores, and I consumed yogurt like it was no business. And you know what I did? I probably put all the mucus back in my body that I got out as a fruitarian before that. What I did eating in my health food stores probably set me back several years from what I accomplished. I didn't realize it. I thought it was healthy. Could this repopulating of good soldiers be the answer to the golden question of how to repopulate the lymph nodes? I think you got a good, I think your thinking is okay there, but no. No. Bacteria will reseed itself, my dearest one. But it's enough to say, though, that you don't have to think about bacteria and things like that. It doesn't need to be in your thought processes. If you're having trouble in your gut, clean up your gut. Get your lymph system moving and fix that up. If you've been on long-term antibiotics, just keep working the diet, keep working the herbs. You'll find that your body's a revolving door, guys. They come in through everywhere. And it's just that they're microbes. We need electron microscopes. So you got to realize that they can move in and out of places with ease that it seems to be closed. So I don't think so, Mother. I wouldn't spend any more time going that way. And as far as the fecal implants, wow. A friend of mine has melanoma mucosa and had to have the tip of her tongue removed. Ouch. Yeah, they now want to remove her lymph nodes as well. I know this is flat out a bad, it's a flat out bad decision. And but what this is what we have to learn, what cancer is, really, and what the lymph system is, what acids are, and the fact that when you have cancer in the tongue, you're backed up all over. You're backed up under the arms, you're backed up down the sternum, you're backed up all over the place. It's the kidneys that's the problem, and the adrenal glands control those. Probably a little pituitary there too. So, but really got to move her lymph. I mean, you can't just keep cutting out stuff, because you get to the point where you can't fix yourself. You cut out the wrong lymph nodes, you're done. And that's a serious issue. These guys think lymph nodes are candy. We can cut them out. You don't need them. This shows the extreme ignorance of this. That lymph nodes are doing their job in her. That's what they do. That's where cancer cells go. You've got cells that are damaged. And the lymph system deals with that. The immune system deals with that. It's not an autoimmune problem at all. It's a lymph stagnation problem. And that can be remedied and fixed. These lymph nodes can go down if they have a pathway. The pathway is, of course, remember, here's the underarms. This is not going to go to the heart. Here's a bunch of lymph nodes here. Here's the kidney right here. So it's real easy to understand